these students were just excellent participants. They were super engaged. They had the most fun. I mean, it was just awesome seeing them experiencing the whole day.
One dimension is to really bridge and to engage with secondary school students, to let them start to imagine things. How can they integrate what they already know about the world and take it in new directions and bigger frames?
You're listening to Speaking of Language, a podcast recorded at the Language Resource Center at Cornell University. Each week, we explore a topic related to language pedagogy and second language acquisition. This week, on Speaking of Language,
we recap the premier Cornell World Languages Day. Angelika and colleagues Abby Cohn and Katie Blake talk about the massive event showcasing world languages and cultures to high school students in our community.
Welcome to a new episode of Speaking of Language. I'm Angelika Kramer, the director of the Language Resource Center at Cornell University.
And I'm Sam Lupowitz, the LRC's Media Development Manager. Today, we have Abby Cohn and Katie Blake in the studio. Together with Angelika, they organized a pilot event that celebrates world languages and cultures, and they are here to talk about the impact it had on participating high school students and Cornell participants.
Welcome to Speaking of Language, Abby and Katie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Before we start diving into Cornell World Languages Day and this wonderful event that we just put on a couple of weeks ago, can you share with our listeners a little bit more about your roles at Cornell and also what languages you speak and the paths you took with languages?
Sure. So I actually was an undergrad at Cornell and hadn't discovered linguistics, but studied French and loved French, and that eventually led me to go to graduate school in linguistics, where I focused on French and also French, English, and Indonesian and Indonesian languages. So in the process, I've studied French, German, Indonesian, and a little bit of Dutch.
Wow.
And all of that came together when, as my first job, I came back to Cornell just a few years ago. And I'm a professor of linguistics and also the director of the Southeast Asia program.
Wonderful. Katie, what about you?
Yeah, so I am currently a graduate student at Cornell. I came here to work with Abby. We have a similar background. I also studied French in college at Indiana University, where there are a lot of languages available for study. It's awesome. And I'm currently working on some linguistics projects in different Romance languages like French and Italian.
Wonderful. And you teach French right now, right?
I do. I'm a French TA for first-year students, and it's super fun to see them go from not knowing anything at all other than how to say bonjour to really having a whole conversation by the end of the semester.
That's great. So this event, World Languages Day. Abby, can you talk a little bit about how this all came about?
Sure. So I actually, really by coincidence, learned about World Languages Day from Professor Sue Gass, who is on the faculty at Michigan State University. And she told me about this wonderful, massive outreach event. And it got my wheels spinning about how this could be a really great way both to connect with secondary school students and expose them to the importance of language learning, but also to promote the less commonly taught languages. We at Cornell teach a wonderful set of relatively commonly taught languages and what we call less commonly taught languages. And one of my goals has been to make those more visible to both students and the community. And then just really coincidentally, really only a few weeks after that, Angelika came for a job visit for the position that you're now in. And
spoiler alert.
During that visit, we were able to arrange for Angelika to meet with the then director of the Einaudi Center for International Studies, the vice provost for international affairs, and the director of global learning. And the four of you spoke about World Languages Day and kind of pitched it as an idea. And so really, as I remember it, once you had accepted the position and decided to come, you and I just started talking about how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna make it happen? And so we were able, with the help actually of the Vice Provost's office, to bring together representatives from the Office of Engagement Initiatives, the Public Service Center, the library, Einaudi, Global Learning, to initiate a conversation about whether we might have our own version of World Languages Day at Cornell.
Yeah. And to provide a little bit more context of what World Languages Day is, so I've been involved with this program at Michigan State for about 10 years. And Abby, as you mentioned, it's an outreach initiative to just get students excited about the opportunities that studies in languages and cultures afford them, and to bring students to a university campus and to show them that there are student clubs, that there are study abroad opportunities, that there are many globally minded units, and of course a whole array of languages that students can choose from. So by virtue of now working at the Language Resource Center here, that was a natural connection to bring this event with me. And I do need to give a shout out to my colleagues at Michigan State, particularly Joy Campbell, because I think this event would not have gone so seamlessly without all of the materials that we had at our disposal that we could tap into. But it's really just a nice opportunity to showcase what university campuses do and the opportunities that students who are prospective students, but also current undergraduate and graduate students have when it comes to being exposed to language learning, culture learning, study abroad, all things global. So definitely a fun event.
You know, at Cornell, all of the languages that we offer are offered through the College of Arts and Sciences through several different departments.
Yeah.
And the Language Resource Center is also part of Arts and Sciences, but it very much serves the whole university. And one of the things when we were looking for the new director was also to think about how do we connect more systemically with the whole university. And so that was really part of the idea as well, that this would be something that it wouldn't just be arts and sciences, it wouldn't just be the LRC or the language instructors, but it would really be this university level collaboration. And that's why we started at such a high level in terms of putting together some strategic planning.
Yep.
So, Katie, walk us through the day. What happened at World Languages Day?
Well, it was a whirlwind. We had a bunch of awesome, super enthusiastic undergrad volunteers show up in the morning before the whole thing started to get everything set up. And then the student participants arrived, and these students were from two different programs. Locally, the first program is STEP, which is Science and Technology Entry Program, and the other students were from a program called Upward Bound. And these students were just, excellent participants. They were super engaged. They had the most fun. It was just awesome seeing them experiencing the whole day. So we had a little opening ceremony at the beginning to kind of pump them up and give them a preview. Touchdown, the Cornell Bear mascot even came, and I had a great time with that. And then they were off. They attended 4 different classes during the day, 4 different sessions, and then at lunchtime we had an info fair where they got to walk around to different booths and see some items from all over the world and learn about different programs that they might be interested in post-high school. And they also got to see a couple of Korean performances. So we had 2 Korean groups perform during the lunch hour, a Korean drumming group, and then a Korean dance group. And they just loved that.
Yep.
So yeah, really from when they got here to when they left, they were just having so much fun. And you could see it really on their faces. It was great.
What were some examples of sessions that were part of World Languages Day?
Yeah, so the performances that they saw at lunch, those were actually sessions too that they could take, which I think is really cool. They got to see kind of what the professional level of those, of the shimta, the dance, and then the emotion, which is the other Korean group that performed. They got to do that themselves at some point in the day, so that was super fun. We also had a session about getting them excited for study abroad and letting them know that this kind of dream is actually more accessible than they may have thought, which is awesome that they can have a global experience when they go to college.
And in addition, we had a number of sessions that focused on both some less commonly taught languages. We had a game show about Southeast Asian languages, and we also had a couple sessions. We had a session on about Arabic, but really about some of the customs and culture and how that fits into language learning. And we also had some sessions on languages that are better known, but thinking about some interesting issues. So what are some of the things you might do, for example, studying French? And we focused on French and its the importance of French relative to some health professions. So in particular, for example, things like Doctors Without Borders and so on, where having language skills can be very important.
And I think another very popular session was our ASL session, which of course goes back to the fact that Cornell just this semester started teaching ASL, so it was really great to incorporate that language already in World Languages Day as well.
Yeah, we'll have more of that coming up a little bit later, a few episodes from now.
Yeah.
And then we also had a really great session about meeting your global communities. So we had a panel of people who have recently immigrated to the Ithaca area come in and talk to the students about their experiences immigrating here and learning English. And I think that was really cool for the students to see that different perspective.
And, and that ties into one of the things we were really interested in when we thought about what would make World Languages Day special at Cornell. Like, what was it particularly? And so first of all, we really wanted to think about how do we bring together all the global, international kinds of activities and communities that are already on campus. So the international students studying languages and cultures, but also how do we connect with the community? And so bringing students from both the from the Ithaca School District and the neighboring districts and working together with the BOCES district, we were able to do that. But also thinking, how do we connect with the community? How do these exact same questions and issues play out in the community? And so we were really glad that the Office for Engaged Initiatives was really helped us to make that bridge and to connect some of the these are really the issues and applications, the day in, day out effects of some of the issues of language and culture that we sometimes, that we think about at the university.
And I think it's so nice that that speaks directly to Cornell's land-grant mission, engaging with the community and getting our Cornell students to engage with that as well.
So what was your sense of the impact of the event? What kind of feedback did you get from the participating high school students and the Cornell volunteers and the Cornell faculty who were involved?
Well, I was just amazed because a lot of times when we say, oh, can you share your experiences? Like if I do that with a class, they might just sit there and
Exactly.
We had decided that we would actually engage at our closing ceremony and ask for some input. And I have to say I was just blown away by both how willing the students were to share and how articulate they were in sharing.
One student remarked that they really loved that the sessions were culture first and language second. So they really got to learn about the people that speak those languages rather than just sitting in kind of a language instruction style class, which can be boring sometimes. And we just got some really, really great feedback. One student said, I feel like I'm going to understand how people communicate, and then I will more fully understand others when asked about, what do you think you're going to get out of the day before they even began. So we gave them a kind of a pre-World Languages Day survey, and that was one of the nice responses. And yeah, some of the students said their favorite parts of the day were getting a taste of what each language and culture is like, which I think was one of our goals of this event, was to not focus on one language or the more commonly taught languages like Spanish or French, but really to expose the students to all kinds of different things like lesser taught languages or in Southeast Asia. One student said, I learned about countries and languages I've never even heard of in Southeast Asia, which is really cool. And one student said that their favorite part was the perspectives of others and the kind staff and the community engagement that we offered. So we just got excellent responses.
Yep.
Awesome.
One of the things, I think to a person, the faculty and the senior lecturers, the lecturers who all participated, said, when can we do it again?
Yeah.
I think they were all really jazzed by the experience as well, and felt that the energy was really positive. And I think everyone is looking forward to trying to do it again. So.
Yeah, and we got similar responses from the volunteers, the undergraduate students too. All of them, except for the ones that are graduating, are really excited to come back and do this again. And they said, one volunteer said that, I loved being able to share Cornell's programs and community with the kids who came to the event, and seeing how engaged they were with the activities and sessions was fantastic and very fulfilling. So that's something great to hear. And another volunteer said that it made me want to take another language at Cornell.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, we're drumming up this enthusiasm in young students and in the undergrads here already. So it was just a smashing success.
Yeah, what stood out to me was that everybody from the participating high school students, all the representatives of all these various units who came together to make it possible, to the volunteers, to the presenters, everybody was grateful for being able to participate. And I think that's huge for spending a Saturday on a university campus when you could do other things, right?
Yeah.
So,
wasn't it the case that at the end of the very long day, one of the undergraduate volunteers was like, thank you so much for letting me help out today.
Exactly.
It was just amazing.
Yeah. So why are events like World Languages Day important?
So I would say one dimension is to really bridge and to engage with secondary school students, to let them start to imagine things, to have a vision of what are some of the really exciting things that they can do in college, and how can they integrate what they already know about the world and take it in new directions and bigger frames. And at the same time, I think all of us often go about our kind of day-to-day business, whether it's teaching linguistics or teaching a particular language or working on, helping people with language learning technology. We kind of have our blinders on, and we forget sometimes how interesting and exciting and what the broader impact of some of what we do can be.
So what future plans are there now, since this was the pilot Cornell World Languages Day? What can we look ahead to?
Well, once we had brought all these stakeholders together with the hopes of launching World Languages Day at Cornell, everyone said, well, show us what it's going to look like, show us how it's going to work. So we decided to do this as a pilot, which we did, and we're very grateful for an engaged Learning Opportunity Grant that we received from the Office of Engagement Initiatives, which really made this possible. And the idea was to do the pilot, and then based on the pilot, bring the stakeholders together again and really think about, making this an annual event. And I think we all are ready to do that. And the idea that we have is to really take everything we did, all of which was really effective, and start to scale it up, but in a very incremental way. So stay tuned. We're looking forward to doing it again. Probably next October. We'll come up with a date, soon, and we'll be sharing information.
So if people have questions or want to find out more, is there a place that they can reach us?
Sure. So we actually have a dedicated email. It's worldlangday@cornell.edu, and that's a permanent existing email now, and we're be delighted to hear from you. We'd be delighted to get questions. If you'd like to be added to mailing lists, so we're sure to share information with you for next year or future years. Or if you have ideas that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm. And if people are interested in taking a look at what World Languages Day looked like, go to Instagram and search for the hashtag CornellWLD. And yes, no, that is not 3 L's in a row.
Yeah,
that's our
right.
email address.
And we do have a website, and we'll be posting information there as we plan for next year as well.
Yeah, and that's lrc.cornell.edu/WLD. Wonderful. Well, before we sign off, we'd like to ask you to share your favorite word in a language that you speak, that you are learning, have learned, want to learn. Katie, what is that favorite word?
So one of my colleagues and friends in the linguistics department is Korean, and she currently teaches Korean. And she taught me this exclamation in Korean that means wow. And so it's really fun to say it's 대박, right?
Say that again?
대박.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
We should-
so I like using that a lot.
we should start using that. 대박.
It's really
React
fun.
to things.
Yeah,
That's
wow. Yeah.
Abby, what about you?
So one of the things to me that's so fascinating is different languages make grammatical distinctions in different ways. So some languages have gender and some grammatical gender, and some don't, and some use past tense and future tense, and other ones don't. And in Indonesian, there's a wonderful grammatical distinction. So they have two different forms of we, or first person plural. There's we, there's we kami, which means me, we, us, but not you. And then there's kita, which means us, including you. And it's a really useful distinction. So sometimes you're like, what are we doing? And you want to make it clear, we, but not you. Indonesian lets you make
I don't know
exactly
what-
that distinction.
I don't know what you're doing, but we're in the movies.
Exactly.
But not you.
But
Exactly.
you're not invited.
That's nice.
Well, Abby, Katie, thank you so much for speaking of language with us today.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
us
this
join
was
you.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The Language Resource Center is located on the ground floor of Stimson Hall on Cornell's main campus in Ithaca, New York. Check us out on the web at lrc.cornell.edu or look for Cornell LRC on Facebook and Twitter.
Speaking of Language is produced by Angelika Kramer and Sam Lupowitz.
Recorded by Sam Lupowitz.
Original music by Sam Lupowitz, Dan Gable, and Joe Gibson.
Thanks also to the College of Arts and Sciences at Cornell University.
As a reminder, the ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the College of Arts and Sciences or any other official entity of Cornell University.
We thank our listeners, and do stay tuned for our next episode.